know today, and I think it's why we were sworn to secrecy, is how close we really came to a potential nuclear holocaust.
You know how much press the nuclear warheads got when they landed in Cuba?
The step toward world thermonuclear war.
Well, this was 1,000 times worse, but nobody knows about it.
Another victim was the United States naval vessel Liberty. She was mistaken for an Egyptian vessel, and Israeli ships and planes torpedoed and strafed her.
Good afternoon, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live, and we have very honored to have a very special guest. My wife was going to be with me here today. She was unable to make it. Very sad for that because she really wanted to be a part of doing this interview, but I'm sure maybe we'll be doing another one in the near future, and she can be in here with us on that. But we have Phil Tourney. He is the president of the USS Liberty Veterans Association and a survivor of the attack on the USS Liberty in 1967. Phil, it is a very much of an honor, and I can't even imagine. I know we're going to talk a lot about this, but I can't even imagine what you guys went through back on that fateful day in June 1967.
Yeah, it was very unexpected, and we really didn't know what to think of it at the beginning, but we knew what to think of it by the end.
Absolutely. Can you take, we'll get right into this, Phil. There's a lot of different directions I would like to look at this on, and certainly we want to bring out everything we possibly can from your memory of the events that took place that day. Can you just maybe just take us step by step? I know that you guys, if I'm not mistaken, you were down in Africa originally before you got the call to go up to the Mediterranean. If you can just kind of take us by step, give us a little scenario of what the events were leading up before the attack that happened there in 1967.
Sure. Stephen, thank you sincerely for giving me and the opportunity to be with you and give you the God's honest truth as I know it. We were in Abidjan, Africa. That was one of our regular ports. What we usually did was steam up and down the west coast of Africa, hitting different ports, Abidjan, Luanda, and many others. And we would, get supplies and stuff like that, and go on the beach, leave for a few hours, and whatever, then come back to ship. But this particular time, we were in Abidjan. We had just arrived. So our first day there, and then going into the night, and we got immediate orders to leave port ASAP and head to the Eastern Mediterranean. We didn't know why. It was very unexpected. We never did do that before. And that was my third cruise aboard the Liberty, third and last. But that never happened before. But this time it did. It was a mad scramble to get everybody back on board and ready to set sail for uncharted waters we'd never been in before. So we got everybody on board. And Lieutenant Golden and his crew in the engine room got this. This is an old World War II Victory ship that was turned into a spy ship, one of the most sophisticated spy ships in the world at that time. When we got underway at the very top speed we could go, they took the governors off the main propulsion units so we could go faster to get there. Went through the Rock of Gibraltar, headed into the Med, and all the other ships were going the other way, and we were the only one going that way into the war zone. So we finally hear that there's a war going on between Israel and the Arab states, Jordan and Egypt and others, Syria. So we're thinking, my goodness, our friends, the Israelis, are in a war, and we're there to support them somehow. I didn't know if it was going to be electronically or eavesdropping on what or whatever. I was not in that part of the ship. but I know enough about the CTs, the NSA guys and the CIA guys told me what they were doing there. I mean, they never told me anything top secret. They didn't then, and they haven't now. They never have revealed anything like that, but they have revealed their own personal feelings about what went on. We get on station around on the 7th, and we were being overflown then by Israeli aircraft, reconnaissance aircraft. We go into the next day, June the 8th, the same thing continues. Israeli flying boxcars, they call them, and other aircraft were taking pictures or filming our ship, every last little detail. The government of Israel, the IDF, identified us as U.S., American, and friendly before the attack. We had
actually heard the audio of that. And of course, I do speak Hebrew, so I understood it. And just like you said, they identified you as an American friendly ship. So there's no mistake, no question about it. They knew who you were. Maybe not know why you were there, but they definitely knew who you were to start with.
correct. Absolutely, they did. And before I go into the attack, Lyndon Baines Johnson and his cohorts in Israel, Levi Eskol and his group, were meeting with Johnson a long time before our ship was attacked. So this was not a spur of the moment thing. We were sent there on purpose to be attacked and sunk by the IDF. And that's a fact.
You know, I can really believe that. And that was my suspicion from the beginning. And even recently with the issue going on in the Gaza, and I won't get into that, but I just want to just say this much here. Because I worked in the CIA from 1983 to 1991. I wasn't anybody special, but I got my feet wet in a lot of cases there that were not very pleasant. But one thing that I, because of my contacts with them and what I do now with the news, I still have some good contacts, of people that I deal with, that I engage with, and they had told me about a year in advance before the issue started with Gaza. They said there's going to be a confrontation that's going to take place in the Middle East. And it's going to be such of a confrontation that it will end up plunging the entire world to world war. And I said, what kind of confrontation and who? And he said, I'm not at liberty to tell you that. And so I said, I guess Israel will be involved. He said, I'm not at liberty to say. And after this, especially October 7th, I knew that had to be an inside job. I lived in Israel. I've been through a suicide bombing. I know Israel, fastest military on the planet, would not take 8 hours to react. So I knew something was up. I got back with him later and I said, is this the event? He said, you got it. So looking at that, knowing that they planned that with the same objective, even of now trying to plunge a global war, I looked at the USS Liberty attack, especially in my opinion, their intention was to sink you guys to the bottom of the sea. They did not want any survivors, any witnesses, and most likely it would be blamed on the Egyptians, or better yet, the Russians, so that they could justify a global war. And I have always wanted to know, somebody like yourself, Phil, your opinion about that and what you might know firsthand from that.
Yes, that's a very good question. And my knowledge and my heartfelt belief, and many of the survivors feel the same way. I might add, a lot of them are dying off now. We lost 4 in the last month and a half. So the survivors are getting older or from cancer, disease. They're all dying off, unfortunately. But those of us that are left will carry the banner until the day we die to tell the truth. And listen, we're not out to bury anybody. They did that all by themselves of what they did to our ship and what they did to our country. So this is not a hate thing. This is a truth thing. But if you commit the crime willingly, you need to be punished. And there's no statute of limitations on murder. I don't care what country it is.
That's exactly right.
So to know what we know now or what we knew the next day, that evening, that the Israelis would do this to us, we couldn't figure out why, but we know exactly why now. We knew shortly time after that why. We were sent there for one reason, to be sunk, as you said, put us on the bottom, bring us into a confrontation with Nasser. They hated Nasser, so did Johnson. They wanted rid of him. And that's basically what it was all about. Sink us, blamed it on Egypt or the Arab states, and the United States would come in on the side of Israel to defeat them. In fact, there were tactical nukes on the way to bomb Cairo even before our ship got attacked from SAC. They were already in the air, and it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. And they had to be turned around.
And another thing that made it obvious to me, Phil, that you guys were being targeted was because there's several things. One, that Israel already identified what type of ship you were. That's just the first ones that get picked up. Of course, then they send in unmarked aircraft to do the attack on you guys. They take out your flag, they take out your communications antennas, and then they take out the few guns that you have on the ship. All of those were immediately hit, so you had no way to communicate, no way to retaliate, so they wouldn't worry about losing any planes, and then they began the kill, and that's to kill everybody on board.
Yes, they did. The attack started around 2 o'clock, 2:05 in that general area in the afternoon. Beautiful, bright, sunny day. And we had no reason to fear our best friends in the whole wide world, Israel, because we thought they were there to protect us if anything would happen, because we asked for a destroyer escort or something to be with us, because we're just basically a cargo ship with a bunch of spies in it. And we had no way to protect ourselves. On the first strafing run, they took out every tuning antenna on that ship. They took out our 450 caliber machine guns. There was not one watertight door on that ship that wasn't hit on the first pass. Not one watertight door above the waterline that wasn't hit on the first pass. So it was very well executed. And as again, unmarked planes, they could see the sailors on deck, and they mowed them down. They mowed them down. And we still didn't know who was attacking us, Stephen. But this went on for about 25, 30 minutes in that area. It seemed like it was a lifetime, the initial attack. It really did. It just didn't seem like it was ever going to end. So the airplanes got done with us. Go ahead, please.
When you say it seems like a lifetime, I mean, there's so many things that people experience in life that It can last only a few minutes, and they'll talk about that. It seems like a lifetime. But when you guys, I mean, y'all were under an attack for 2 different times, but at one point, 80 minutes, that's well over almost an hour and a half, especially when you're under such ferocity of these cannons on these warplanes, and then you get attacked by torpedoes from submarines. That would seem like an eternity. And then on top of it, your friends and stuff, whether they just were killed in front of you or wounded, I can't even imagine what that would be like. And you mentioned, Phil, about you guys, when you went in there, you felt like you would be safe as far as Israel would be concerned, because Israel should be an ally. And if it was maybe under President Kennedy, then I could see why there would be a mistrust, because we know that Kennedy was not very fond of Israel at the time. And we'll go into that in just a little bit. But Johnson, he had a very close relationship with Levi Eshkol. Very, very close. In fact, he was not known to carry on or want to carry on much dignitary conversations with other people in the world. But when it comes to Levi Eshkol, he was always very glad to make time for him, to speak with him, to take that time, liberty of time with him, long dialogues, etc., and would do anything in the world for him. In fact, he was one that pressed the German chancellor of West Germany at the time to sell Eshkol tanks that they were much needing, because of knowing that their compromised situation with Jordan and with Syria and of course Egypt, and they agreed to do so. Of course, it only angered Jordan, because Jordan was looking at doing buying the tanks from Germany, and now they were not happy that Israel was getting tanks. And that was supposed to be a secret deal, but that kind of leaked out of the bag. But continue on, Phil, please.
Yes. After the aircraft got through with us, now I forgot to mention that the jets dropped napalm on us as well. So our ship was on fire, and I was in damage control. We couldn't put out the napalm fires. In fact, all of our firefighting hoses were shot up. They were worthless. The only thing we had to fight fires with were CO2 canisters, and that didn't last long. It wouldn't put out napalm. It just had to finally burn out. But it was tried. We tried. I was on the bridge several times, but it just didn't work. And the torpedo boats, there were surface craft, not submarines. There were 3 mortar torpedo boats on our starboard quarter, about 1,000 yards out or so. Start firing their torpedoes, and we could see the Star of David on the torpedo boats. And we finally said, "Uh-oh, Israel's doing this, not the Arabs." And it was unbelievable to us this could take place. They circled the ship and circled our ship. Of course, they fired 5 torpedoes at us. One of them hit the starboard side, instantly blowing to bits 25 of America's finest CIA and NSA personnel. The very finest spies this country had to offer, in a blink of an eye, were gone. It was sad to know that your shipmates were gone, and there were so many wounded. But the torpedo boats circled the ship, shooting at our firefighters, stretcher bearers with 50 caliber machine guns and cannons. This went on for, well, the entire attack lasted about 2 hours. When the torpedo hit us, it picked the ship completely up out of the water and slammed it right back down. Boom, boom, boom. And it started listing to the starboard side, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 degrees. I thought it was going to roll over. And it just stopped. It just stopped by the grace of God. It just stopped. And we still thought we were sinking. The old man said, prepare to abandon ship. There were only 3 life rafts left. They had shot all the rest of them up. We had enough life rafts on that ship for 294 souls, and we only had 3 left. We put 3 life rafts over the side. They shot 2 of them out of the water. We were going to put our most seriously wounded in them, so at least they'd have a chance. They shot them out. They shot 2 out of the water and took 1 aboard their boat as a trophy of their kill. I believe it's in Haifa now. And this continued on, and then they sent troop-carrying helicopters over to board our ship and finish us off. There were Israeli machine gunmen out the turret, sliding on with the skid. They had their feet on the skid, ready to come in. I guess they were going to ladder down a rope in. But I'll be darned, they just took off. What happened was they fessed up that it was a mistaken identity. Sorry we did it, because Terry Haldebardier got a long wire hooked up to a tuning antenna. He took offline because the tuner wasn't working. He got it jerry-rigged back up. That's when we got an SOS out. Rockstar, under attack by unknown aircraft, Rockstar. It was picked up as far away as Vietnam. Wow. It was picked up by the 6th Fleet, the America and the Saratoga and their sister ships, their Armada. Captain Tully immediately launched jet aircraft to come to our aid. Within seconds, those jet aircraft, but even before they hit the horizon, were recalled by McNamara. Return to ship, return to base. Do not go to help the Liberty. Then the America launched. Then Johnson got on the line. He says, you get those GD planes back here. I don't care if every sailor aboard that ship dies. I'm not going to embarrass my ally Israel. Help never did come to us.
The question is, he's obligated to the American people first as the President of the United States, and especially to his military that he has been elected as the chief in command, and now he's abandoning his own soldiers because of his ally Israel. I mean, I thought American soldiers take preeminence over any ally.
Well, that would be the norm. This has never happened before to this degree. Captain Bucher of the USS Pueblo, he said, if I'd have really known about the USS Liberty, my ship would have never been captured by the North Koreans. And, you know, they fried him. They raked him over the coals because I don't think any of it was really his fault. I really don't. But we go into no help coming to us. They left us out there for 17 hours alone when help was only 40 minutes away. All night. And I mean this sincerely, Stephen. Our whole mess decks, we had tables, of course, to eat on and stuff like that. We took mattresses and things and put them on the tables to try to make the guys feel at least a little comfortable. I mean, it was a sea of blood and men dying on the mess decks. They were on the floors. They were all over the tables. There was 174 wounded. I wasn't wounded myself, but I was walking wounded by the grace of God. I was the walking wounded. But this went on all night. Doc Kiefer, I helped him in one operation, well, actually several. Gary Blanchard, I'll never forget, went into sick bay. He'd been hit in his back or his kidney somewhere in that area. And Doc was getting ready to open him up, and his feet were burning up. So I rubbed his feet, and he looked at me and he says, "You think I'm going to make it?" And I regret saying this to him, but I said, "No, I don't think you are, man." And I was holding a lantern up for, they call it a battle lantern for Doc to see.
Right.
Cut him open. As soon as he cut him open, he was dead. He put a few stitches in his gut. We laid him over to the side and went on to the next one. So that's what it was. And it was like that all night. We finally got help the next day from the USS America. Now, if they would have let those volley of rescue aircraft come to our aid, they could have surely driven off the torpedo boats, and 25 more Americans would have been spared, not counting the countless others who were wounded.
Right. Right. Yeah, they would have definitely got out of Dodge at that point then. But you know, the thing is when, you know, it blows my mind away, Phil, how what most people would consider to be a conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy against the people of the United States, that you have people in such high-ranking offices there that can coordinate, because they had to coordinate this, just like in the case with this Gaza conflict. I knew about it a year in advance. So how much longer had they planned it before they actually carried it out? So it would be the same thing with USS Liberty. They knew about this long in advance. No doubt Israel probably did mock runs so that their pilots would know how to be able to take out, knowing what ship they're going to attack, knowing that they had to set up some kind of a mock ship so they could actually target practice on. I mean, this had to have been going on. Otherwise, how else could they so with such precision come in and take out your cannons, take out your antennas on the ship, the flag on the ship, everything with such precision? And as you said, even all the doors that would seal from water and stuff on, they had every single one of them on the above the waterline. You know, that's just the efforts that went into this. And then when Johnson knows that his kind of hand is up, he's been caught, he still sits there and tells everybody to stand down. I mean, this man should have been immediately taken in for treason against the United States. Nothing happens.
No, nothing happened. It was treasonous, and his cohorts. It was a handful of people inside the government. They kept it as tightly knit as they could. They had, of course, McNamara, Secretary of Defense, and of course, LBJ himself, Admiral John McCain, and several others, Admiral Isaac Kidd, and Ward Boston. That's just a good handful of them there.
It doesn't surprise me with John McCain, especially knowing the events and circumstances of Ukraine as well. So that doesn't surprise me a bit. No, I did not know that his name was in behind this as well, but I can certainly see why. Wow, what a mess. Can you share with me, we were talking a little bit about before coming on about President Kennedy. And I know that President Kennedy, he was having a very, very contentious relationship with Ben Gurion at the time, in so much that there has been some commentators that wrote that possibly that relationship caused Ben Gurion to resign. Now, whether or not it did or did not, I don't know the answer to that for sure. But then Levi Eshkol comes in, takes his place, and of course the contentious relationship continues, and Kennedy just flat out isn't planning on doling out all this support to Israel any longer. And you made a very interesting statement to me about Kennedy that I was totally not aware of. If you could share that, because to me that kind of plays in to possibly even the events of the USS Liberty, because that was just just a few years before the attack.
Yes, in I believe it was 1939 or 1940. He was writing letters to his father, and he was mentioning that the Palestinians, that's been their land for so long, and he didn't want to see them basically wiped out or moved. And in my mind, that's one of the reasons that Kennedy was assassinated, uh, not by Lee Harvey Oswald. He was just a patsy, just like he said, when
That's
Jack
right.
Ruby put a gun in his belly inside a police station and killed him. So, but to go back to Liberty, I must say there, if I can, Stephen, Admiral Isaac Kidd in Ward, Boston, came aboard our ship after the attack. I think it was the second day after, and ordered us, the ones that hadn't been evacuated from Liberty to America or another station, to take care of their wounds and their broken bodies. He got us in groups. There was 4 or 5 of us in the group I was in. And as I said before, I was in damage control as assistant on-scene leader, and I was all over that ship. There was nothing that I didn't see. From stem to stern, from port to starboard, to the bridge. I was all over it. I saw a lot of it. I saw the machine gunnings of the life raft. I saw them shoot men on deck. They knew we're American people, American sailors. And I queried him about it. I mean, he took his stars off, Stephen, and threw them on a table. It was a stainless steel table. It rang like a bell. And he says, talk to me like I'm your dad. I want to know everything about it because I want to get this cleared up. Hey, I thought, well, great. We want to get it cleared up too. I'm glad you're listening to us. I told him everything I saw, what I thought. He put his stars back on. He says, now I'm an admiral again. I'm going to tell every one of you SOBs, if you ever breathe a word of this to anybody, your parents, especially the press or anyone else, I'll make sure you're fine, go to prison, or worse. He looked at me and said, you know what worse means? I said, yes, sir, I do. So
Well,
he put the
there's
fear
no
of God.
question. It was a big cover-up from the top on down.
What did we do wrong? Why are we being labeled the bad guys and we can't talk about it?
For the next 40 plus years, I never said anything to anyone.
No. Never. I knew it'd be the end of my career if I said anything. In the Naval Security Group, everything was secret. So just one additional secret you had to keep.
You just couldn't talk about it. It was such a secret, and with our lives threatened, and who knows if they were monitoring us or doing whatever.
You ever repeat one word about the USS Liberty and who did it to you, I'll guarantee you I'll see you in Leavenworth or worse. You know what worse means?
Then you're told by the President of the United States, Secretary of Defense, to keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything.
Yes, sir,
That's
I
a
do.
direct order.
So he put the fear of God in. Hey, listen, I was an E4 petty officer. I mean, he's a flag admiral, dressing us down rather than saying, hey, good job, you guys. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you made it. Let's see what we can do to help you. We got another slap in the face again by our own government. First, they try to murder us all. They set us up to be murdered. Then they send his flunky over there to do an investigation. And him and Ward Boston both knew it was a sham. They finished that board of inquiry in 7 days when it should have taken a year. They never inquired the Israelis. They took the Israelis at their word over American citizens that were there that saw it, that had been shot at, wounded, and killed. They took Israel's side of it, said it was a mistaken identity. And that's the way it is, and that's the way you're going to present it. Can't talk about it as a mistaken identity. So they took all the CTs, the NSA guys off, CIA guys off, and put them all over the world in different hospitals where they couldn't get together. None of us could get together. They were very good about that. So they split us all up. But I stayed with the ship, brought it home to Malta, which was 1,000 miles away with a 40 by 40 foot hole in the starboard side. They sent us 1,000 miles away to get repaired. They were hoping our ship would have sunk. But this is a fact, Stephen. Our ship, if we go down, SAC airplanes were already in the air even before we got attacked to attack Cairo. Now, how did they know that? How did they know to go attack Cairo? Our ship didn't sink, and they turned those planes around just in time. Now, if our ship sinks, who knows what the world would have turned like?
Exactly. Exactly. It would have been World War III, just as you have brought out already. And you guys were the sacrificial lambs for this very war there. Bill, how long did it take with this admiral putting those types of threats and pressures on you guys? How long did it take before you finally began to speak out about this?
For me, it's been about 42 and a half years ago. I found out there was an organization, the USS Liberty Veterans Organization, from a fellow Master Chief Stan White. He was a good friend of mine. He's passed on now, but he put there was an article in the Rocky Mountain News, and it wasn't a long article, but I read it and I thought, wow, the whole world just came off my shoulders. If they're talking about it, I sure can. And I just remarried my second wife, Lisa, where I'm still married to her. But when we got married, I never told her I was in the military. Never. I blocked it out of my mind. I didn't even want to think about it. But once I got started, I haven't quit since then, trying to get the word out. Because this was not just an attack on our ship, it was an attack on all of us, all Americans. And, that galls me that you can kill Americans doing what their government told them to do, even though we were set up to be sink. Look what they would have done to the American population. They would have probably had more military men from America killed in some form or fashion. So our story is a springboard for the truth, and we could prove it. We're not out here 57 years later, come June the 8th, next week, telling lies. We're not that type of people. So,
Phil, the thing is, if the world could take, or Americans, I should say, if the American people would wake up and realize, and granted, I understand it's an elite group in the Israeli government or whatever circles of that is, same with our government, this elite group of politicians, and then they've got so many people in the military that in order to carry out these types of events there. But if they would ever wake up and recognize that there is a very sinister plot that continues. It never stopped. They started back in 1967 by trying to take out the USS Liberty and all of its crew to justify World War II and get that started, or even if it wasn't World War III, but for the sake of being able to take out all the Arabic nations, because that's been their goal all along, they wanted to take over Syria, they want to take Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt because they want to control the Sinai, etc. It's no different than what we see happening today. It's no different than if people could see what happened to you guys with the USS Liberty, maybe then they might rethink about And I know this is very controversial to say it, but there's been so much evidence uncovered even for 9/11. What brought us into Iraq? What brought us into this war there? There could be all kinds of things that maybe people might start taking more seriously, and who's really behind these attacks that are willing to take out American lives. But what's sad are those leaders in our nation that are willing to cover it up. I mean, this was a foreign entity, and this was an attack on the American nation. When they attacked USS Liberty, that's an attack on the entire country. This was an act of war. This should have been not the President Johnson saying, don't go to their aid. He should have sent all the warplanes necessary and drove them back and not to say you have to go in there and obliterate Israel at that point, but at least drive them back from attacking you any further and then making serious demands of changes. But no, what do? They help them to even under Johnson, they help with the Dimona, get the nuclear program growing, and they say the real first nuclear test for Israel was not 1979, but 1964 with the Chinese. So the thing is this, ever since the creation of this state of Israel has taken place, it's just been an attack on, to me, in my opinion, an attack on the American people ever since. And the greatest attack of all has been the USS Liberty.
I agree with everything you said, especially about our spineless government, from LBJ to Biden. Not one of them will touch us. Every congressperson and senator from that era to this very day think we're a bunch of nuts, that they won't touch it. They said, well, there's been congressional investigation.
There's not been a single congressman or senator that has been willing to step up to the plate and acknowledge.
Well, we have in the past. Jim Trafficant, he wanted to help us. Paul Finley, I'm sure you heard of him. He's a congressman from Illinois. And Pete McCluskey, he just passed on a few weeks ago. He was a congressman from California. Peter Hostetler. Let's see.
Trafficant, I can certainly believe would have done it for sure. He was not afraid to take on Israel at all.
No, but all of them got shot down in Congress. They said, listen, there's already been investigation after investigation of the USS Liberty by Congress. There's never been one. They're liars. They lie. They lie to us, not to believe our own eyes, our own hearts, our own minds. And they said, well, it's already been investigated. No, the only investigation they've ever had is a 7-day sham trial of mistaken identity. Admiral Starring, he became the Judge Advocate General of the United States Navy. They sent that inquiry to him when he was a congressman, a captain. And he says, I can't approve this. This isn't right. There's too many statements of fact that don't match up with the mistaken identity attitude they're going to take. So they withdrew it from him. McCain said, have this wrapped up in 7 days. In 7 days, it was signed off by Isaac Kidd and Admiral McCain. And we were on a gag order. They took away our First Amendment rights. In fact, they stripped all of our civil rights. They stripped them. The crew of the USS Liberty is the most decorated ship in American history for a single engagement.
And yet you guys are not allowed to have on any of the documentation or the citations that you were awarded, are not allowed to say one word about Israel in the citations that have been awarded to any of the sailors that were on the ship. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I got a Bronze Star with a V, Purple Heart, and others, combat action and all that stuff. But it was a very nice accommodation, but it didn't say who attacked us.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. No, not one.
Yeah.
I mean, the most decorated soldiers in American history, and normally on any decoration of that a soldier were to get in combat, it always mentions whether it be World War II, Vietnam, whatever the case may be, no matter where the battle is, it's mentioned. But in the case of USS Liberty being attacked by the Israeli government, Israeli military, you're not allowed to have that mention on there while you're being decorated.
No,
That's
nope.
like another insult to injury.
Well, I went back to the Department of the Navy and said, hey, listen, all I want you to do is just put one word in there, Israel. And they refused, said, we cannot change an official record. Oh, yes, you can. It's been done before, but they won't do it. Listen, the masters of our country live in Israel,
Right.
and the ADL. They play our politicians just like they're on a yo-yo string. And if they don't do what they're told, or give what they got to give to Israel, they won't be reelected again. In fact, Stephen, when our ship got attacked, Israel received more money than they'd ever gotten before for killing Americans on the high seas.
What a disgusting thing to even think about. You know, it reminds me in 1973, only 5 years after you guys were attacked, William Fulbright told CBS News Face the Nation, this is when he said, Israel controls the U.S. Senate. The Senate is subservient, much too much. We should be more concerned about U.S. interests rather than doing the bidding of Israel, he says there. And he was brave to say that. You wouldn't dare. There's not anybody that would go out and have the courage to say that today in any type of mainstream media. You'd be called an anti-Semite for doing that. And now it's not just the U.S. Senate. They control the Congress and the Senate and all the presidents, just like Johnson. And that's why Kennedy got himself killed, was because he was willing to stand up against Israel. And when you mentioned earlier that it wasn't, oh gosh, what's that boy's name there? Oswald, he was just a patsy. When I worked with those guys back years ago, I actually worked with a group of them that knew a lot of details about the assassination. And I never have really gone into it publicly ever because of, just knowing there's still people alive that don't want that story told. But eventually I probably will say what needs to be said about that, especially in light of hearing the things that you shared with me today. That's even more interesting. So what are some other things that you could share with us, Phil, about this event and what you guys went through? I mean, the tragedy in itself is just beyond words that could ever be spoken, in my opinion.
Yes, it all boils down to this. The IDF inflicted over 850 cannon rocket holes in this ship, over 5,000 armor-piercing bullets in this ship, napalm burning us up, and a 40 by 40 foot hole in the starboard side, listing badly to the starboard side, shooting our life rafts, doing everything they could to eliminate us all, sending troop carrying helicopters, Marines over to finish us off. And throughout all this, the only thing we had was our will and our wits to live. And all glory goes to our Savior Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We were his servant, just his servants that day, but he's the only one that come to help us. He held that ship up when that torpedo hit it, and it kept it from sinking. And I believe that. So do my shipmates. It was a miracle that we withstood, that any of us survived. But we did, and there's a reason why we survived. That's why we're still talking, even though it's taken longer than it should. It's 57 years. We're getting more press than we ever did. We're getting more interviews, and in fact, I've done 10 or 15 interviews in the last 15 days, and
Wow.
it's just, which I'm very proud to do that, and very fortunate to tell the story and let the world know. Uh, you brought up a point about bought and paid for congressmen. Well, Lindsey Graham was just in front of the Knesset a week or so ago and demanding this and saying this, and uh, the heart, the American heart, should be with the American people and what's best for America, not any foreign governments. Uh, we shouldn't be beholden to anybody. They should. I mean, we're the piggy bank of the world anyway. $36 trillion in debt. Got a military that doesn't function correctly. We're in 2 wars in Europe, in the Middle East, and we got a war on our southern border for voters for Joe Biden. Our country's in deep, deep trouble. It's I never thought I'd see this. I'm sure you did either, Stephen. That and your family and your colleagues and your friends didn't really see the enormity of damage that one person can do to a country in a short 3.5 years.
Yes, and you're right, because the toll that it's taken on this nation, and and it just never has stopped. It's unbelievable to me that Israel could attack the United States in 1967. It'd all be swept under the rug. Not a single congressman, senator, or even the next president on the line would not say a single word about it. That just goes to show you how much control that little bitty tiny nation in the Middle East has over this nation. And even until this day, they still control the narrative. And, my prayer is that somehow there will be a true justice brought, that Israel will be held to the accountability to what was done to every sailor aboard the USS Liberty in 1967, that there will be an accountability, and it'll happen while you guys are still here. It needs to happen. And I'm asking everybody out there that's listening, take the time, make noise about it. If there's any politician you can contact, let them know your feelings about it. Unfortunately, they're probably all bought off as it is, because all I ever hear nowadays is the bells ringing for Israel constantly. And I was very pro-Israel. I come from a Jewish background. I was the first Christian in my family, but at the same time, it was really thanks mostly to my wife's research, began to wake up to just how evil the leaders of Israel had become. And through her research and the studies, and and it all being Jewish people that were exposing the evils. Barry Chamish, Barry was a good friend of mine. Then you had the guy that wrote the transfer agreement. You had Christopher Berkness. All these Jewish scholars bringing out the most unbelievable evils that are happening, and yet nobody still listens. And
No, they don't. They don't listen. But Stephen, I'm not angry with the Israeli people. I wasn't angry with them in '67. They have no control over what their government does. Even if they voted them in, they'll do what the hell they want to. So I want the Jewish people to understand that our fight is not with them. It just really isn't. But we can use all the help we can get. I mean, God says, the truth. I'm the truth. Jesus Christ said that. I'm the truth. Follow me. And they crucified him for it. So we're following the truth. We're following his gospel to tell the truth. If we step on somebody's toes, listen, we were stepped on first. We're just telling the truth. Now, listen, we didn't kill anybody. Israel did all the killing. We did. They didn't get a scratch. In fact, I mean, through the whole attack and everything else, we basically kicked the IDF's ass and didn't fire a shot. I mean, that's just the truth. And they're supposed to be the best in the world, and they made one mistake. They fessed up that it was them. If they just waited another half hour or so, they could have scuttled our ship, and that'd have been it. But they fessed up too soon.
And still, though, and they did it knowing nothing's going to happen to them.
Oh yeah, we got off scot-free, and they got more money than they ever did by killing Americans on the high seas. And they're still getting it.
Well, there are Israeli people that watch this broadcast as well, and I just encourage you, put the pressure on your own government. Maybe somewhere along the line, somebody will have the courage to stand up and tell the truth and to bring this story out the way it should be brought out. Phil, listen, how can people support the work that you guys are doing? Is there a way they could do that?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Stephen. They can go to ussliberty.org, ussliberty.org. You can donate there. You can read so many different articles and facts. We research everything. We're not here to have research be inaccurate. Everything is verified. So it's a very, very good site to go to. In fact, we're upgrading it now to even make it more spectacular. That will be done in the next probably 30 days. But there's so much to learn there, and if you'd like to donate, we'd already appreciate it. But the main thing for the crew, the survivors. In fact, we're having a reunion in Arlington, Virginia, this coming June the 6th, 7th, and 8th. We're going to the mass grave where there's 5 crew members there that are entombed together because they couldn't identify them. I mean, it was a hand or a foot, who knows? I don't know. But they couldn't even send the remains home. That torpedo just blew them everywhere. But that's another interesting thing. On that mass gravestone, it had died in the Eastern Mediterranean. And Admiral Thomas Moore, he was one of our biggest supporters. He would have none of that. He made him change it to killed in the Eastern Mediterranean, but it still doesn't say anything about Israel.
What do you mean? Unbelievable. Phil, thank you for joining me here today. We really greatly appreciate it. And I've told my wife about the meeting in Arlington, so maybe we'll get to see you there. So,
well, that would be fantastic. That would be great.
It would be.
That is going to be, I believe, at noon on the 8th.
Okay.
And
right.
if I find out anything different, Stephen, I'll let you know if I find out anything different.
Okay. And is Rick Wiles going to be there as well?
Yeah, he is. Rick Wiles.
That'd be great. I haven't seen Rick in a long time, so it'd be good to see him again if we're able to meet there at the same time.
He's a good guy. You know Pastor Chuck Baldwin?
Yeah, I know Chuck really well, too. I know Chuck from back in his days when he was on the radio in Northwest Florida. So, yes, me and Chuck, we've had Chuck on here several times before, too.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he's a big supporter of the USS Liberty. So, hey, listen, Stephen, God bless you, and God bless your family. And I tell your wife, I'm sorry she couldn't have been there with you. But I really enjoyed the conversation with you, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds great. God bless you, my brother, and all that you love as well. Take care, brother.
You bet. Take care. Bye-bye.
Men would bring the body pieces up to me, and I tried to put them together to make a body out of them.
I don't know what the hell happened, and I haven't taken time to find out. I know nothing about it.
What I'm about to tell you is for your ears only. You are not to tell anyone during my lifetime.
I'm surprised I can even talk about that.
They were sad.
That type of horror, your body is not going to remember. Your brain's not going to record it.
I think we sacrificed a lot of people for no good reason.